In Walmart's Who'Knewville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Hi, I'm here to pick up my son Milo.
There's no Milo here.
Who picked up my son from school?
Streaming only on Peacock.
I'm gonna need the name of everyone that could have a connection.
You don't understand. It was just the 5 of us.
So this was all planned.
What are you gonna do? I will do whatever it takes to get my son back.
I honestly didn't see this coming. These nice people killing each other.
All Her Fault. A new series streaming now only on Peacock.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Breaking news are happening now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Reality Flash. My name is Mike Bloom, and I'm here to bring you the flashiest breaking news in the wild world of reality TV. Today, OME, oh my, the Primetime Emmy Awards were just announced this morning, and I've got a lot to break down in terms of all the reality TV goodness that just got nominated, and maybe some stuff that didn't. But first, I know that a certain contestant on a recently Emmy-nominated show would perhaps accuse me of fishing for likes, but I am always fishing for subs and tips. So please, make sure you subscribe to this very podcast at therealityflash.com. And while you're there, leave a rating, leave a review. We're going to be talking about a lot of shows today that got some commendations. So try to pay it forward and pass a commendation your way for this very podcast. And of course, if you spot any reality TV news out there that you want me to cover, no spam, no solicitations, just tips at therealityflash.com. Again, that it's just tips at therealityflash.com. Let's talk Emmys, shall we? It is arguably the biggest night of the year on TV, a time for the best and brightest to come together and acknowledge all the incredible TV that we've gotten the chance to watch over the course of the past year. And ever since the 2000s, when reality TV really burst onto the scene as this, kind of enigmatic, unscripted genre, it eventually found its place properly into the Emmy nominations, of course, as its proper genre, separate from all the other scripted goodness that is to be beholden. Now, of course, these categories have also morphed and changed, much like the unscripted genre itself, for the better part of 25 years. But today we are focusing just on the recently announced awards for the Emmys this coming season. It's the 77th, several D7th, if you will, Primetime Emmy Awards coming to CBS, a network, of course, that is the hub of many reality TV shows that we know and love. It'll be coming on September 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, hosted by, very hot comedian right now, Nate Bargatze, especially on CBS. So I figured in this instance, whether you know the nominations or not, figured I'd just go through, what are some of the biggest topics, the biggest categories when it comes to reality TV for the Emmys, which shows got some love, which did not, why did they get some love, what do I think is going to get the ultimate form of love, I suppose, which is the Emmy trophy on September 14th. This is kind of like a mini breakdown of Emmys from a reality TV perspective. I'm sure there will be plenty of discourse both on this network and outside of it as to the scripted side of things. But given the very nature of this podcast, it's right there in the name, folks. I'm focusing on reality today. So let's do some rundowns here. We are going to start with perhaps the biggest category, with no impunity to any of the other categories that we are going to get into subsequently, to the point where hours before the entire, list of nominations was released, there were 2 categories that were revealed exclusively hours ahead of time on CBS Mornings, which seems to be, I don't know, the primary place for like reality TV news to break as of late, considering that they were the ones that announced the Survivor 50 cast. They had Jeff Probst on at the Ask Crack of Dawn to talk to Gail King and company about Mike White. And today, one of the categories that they got to reveal super early on in the day is this year's nominations for Outstanding Reality Competition Program. The nominees are The Amazing Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, Survivor, Top Chef, and The Traitors. And I promise, I won't get into this every time, but I do want to bring up very briefly this one graphic, because this is what came up on both CBS Mornings as well as when they repeated the announcement during the Emmy nominations proper with Harvey Guillen and Brenda Song hours after the fact. So this is an image of all 5 shows that are up for Outstanding Reality Competition Program. I just want to pay special attention to the odd dimensions of the Survivor logo in the corner. First off, they have sort of neglected, whoever they is, using any specific logo from an American Survivor season. Maybe they felt that, technically I believe season 47 and 48 are counted in this batch for the Survivor nomination, so maybe they couldn't choose between the 2. But they somehow went with like not even the Borneo logo, right, which people kind of intersperse for the generic Survivor logo. They went with what looks like the kind of generic one that when the show franchised itself out to essentially every country around the world for a brief portion of time, everyone kind of uses. They just kind of like put their own little markers on it to make it seem just a little different. I think the thing that I'm obsessed with, though, is just from an aspect ratio perspective, they have positively squashed it where this oblong egg shape turned completely circular. It reminds me a lot of like, growing up in the early 2000s, making your way around the initial incarnations of Microsoft Word, and you're like, God, I really got to fit, these pictures back to back on my presentation before I save it on my floppy disk. But dang it, it just won't fit. This thing's too wide. Well, if I squish it, people will get the intention. Seems like, as much as Survivor is known for squishing 39 days of gameplay into 26 days, maybe that's represented in the iconography here. But the symbol matters not, folks, more so the symbol of Survivor being nominated. So this is relatively the same structure as last year. I think with each of these categories, I'm going to compare a bit to the year that came before it, both in what won and what was nominated, with one exception. So last year, Amazing Race, Drag Race, Top Chef, Traitors, all nominated. But Survivor has done a bit of a do-si-do with The Voice. And this is really interesting for The Voice because The Voice, basically ever since it came onto the scene, so starting in 2012, season 2, it has been nominated for Outstanding Reality Competition Program every single year. For over a decade, it has not missed. Survivor has fallen off and come back. The Amazing Race maybe fell off a couple of years as well. You have the Traitors, which recently came onto the scene. Drag Race has really come to prominence since it moved off of logo. But one of the constants in this category, and even a previous winner in The Voice, is not here anymore, which is incredibly intriguing to me. I don't know if it's a larger sign that, like, are people starting to finally tune out on this as sort of an awards darling? It is nominated in a couple of other categories. Could this be a sign that maybe the show doesn't have the staying power that it once did now that it's approaching, like, I think season 27 or 28 here in the fall? Or is it just that there were too many shows this time around to take up the 5 slots, and so The Voice was kind of a default number 6? Because, when it comes to Survivor, they showed this clip when it was introduced on CBS Mornings. I would not be surprised if a large reason why we end up getting this season nominated, we're going to talk about maybe some other categories it was nominated, was for the Joe and Eva moment that happened in episode 5 of season 48. It was one of these rare moments, especially from a modern perspective, that I feel like really broke through, the permeable barrier of Survivor fandom, or even if you were not a fan of the show, it made national headlines. People had to check it out. The YouTube video of the scene itself has racked up like millions of views at this point. And so, when it comes to talking about the way the Emmys regard reality, that's very much the exception. And this is going to come into play when I talk more so about who might win some of these categories. Because as new as unscripted kind of still is, it's only been around for a quarter of a century, but it's only been around for a quarter of a century compared to the rest of television that really is a drop in the bucket. But, the way the voters regard reality TV is actually similar to, I think, the ways a lot of people regarded scripted TV probably like 10, 20 years ago, where there was not a lot of variability between both nominations and eventually voting for a winner, which is kind of weird, right? More so than scripted TV. Unscripted TV, especially the reality competition area, by its pure conceit, brings in a new group of people, sometimes a new location, a new set of challenges, a new set of twists. You would think that on paper, it's more likely that these shows would come on and off the radar more often. If it's like, okay, this was a bad year for this show, let's take it right off. Or, oh, this show really came out of nowhere and was incredible in season 10, 11, 12. Let's give it the Emmy nomination. Not necessarily the case. More so, it's kind of this idea, and maybe it's due to the fact that I don't know what percentage of the Emmy voters actually watch these types of shows compared to its scripted counterparts. But by and large, it kind of seems like a bit of a, once you get nominated, you stay in there for a good portion of time. Maybe you drop out due to falling out of prominence, or there might be these other random newer shows that come in and catch the public's attention. And so the Emmys are going to acknowledge that as well. The Traitors is a good example too. So it's not exactly, maybe this is sort of a blanket statement to apply to everything I'm going to talk about. The Emmys are not fully representative, possibly, of the potential popularity that some of these shows have, especially from a reality TV perspective. I mean, certainly, one large example of a show that was left off here, given not only the virality of it last summer, because also, as a reminder, the window of eligibility for the Emmys is, I believe it is June 1st to May 31st of this year. So June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2025. So there might be some big shows that were huge summer hits. The one that really comes to mind for me is Love Island, where Love Island had been brought over to the US, had a couple of meh seasons on CBS, moved its way to Peacock, has a couple of meh seasons before it really breaks out last summer in season 6. Big Brother as well, obviously has been going for quite a while, also celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and had a season that I think was really talked about more so than a lot of modern day seasons. Both of them left off the nominations list. And while I do see some surprise from people, considering, again, that these are two of the most, vocal, popular fan bases out there, especially on social media, I could see a couple of reasons why this is not the case. The fact that, again, given the window of eligibility, because these are summer shows, these tend to air right at the beginning of the window of eligibility. And certainly from a scripted perspective, it does not discount some of these shows that became sensations over the summer. And despite the fact that we haven't thought about it for a long time, it's still getting recognition. The Bear is a fantastic example of that in its ever-shifting windows and genres. But, when it comes to what's in our consciousnesses, something like The Traitors or a season of The Voice or Top Chef or Survivor that aired just a few months ago, it's definitely more top of mind than a show that, while huge, did occur almost a year ago. The other thing, especially from the Big Brother perspective, is, as I mentioned before, it's really tough to earn your way kind of into the keep as a veteran show. Big Brother has been on for a quarter of a century. It has received 0 Emmy nominations so far. And I think even if these seasons are very much celebrated, I think it's just really tough to break in when a lot of these nominations are either going to tried and trusted shows that have either won or been nominated before, like The Amazing Race, like Drag Race now, or it's the new hotness, right, in The Traitors, which just finished its 3rd season. So listen, I know there's a lot of fans out there in these BB streets that are hoping that Julie Chen Moonves and company finally get their due at the Emmys. I just think it's really tough to break into from, just a pure reputation perspective. But who knows, Love Island might surprise us with how much it has really rose to popularity. But let's talk about what's on this list here. Outstanding reality competition series. Again, Amazing Race, Drag Race, Survivor, Top Chef, and The Traitors. So The Traitors won last year. I think truly a representation of, as I was kind of mentioning before with Love Island, the fact that season 2 really had this thing that catapulted the show into the zeitgeist. It became, I think, like the most streamed reality show last year, essentially set it up as an American dynasty, to the point where our very own Rob Cesternino is going to be on the upcoming season. So I really think the wind is at its back. I think that season 3, while incredibly different than season 2, was still, equally heralded, if not even more, with just how obsessed fans became with the show, how it, reinvigorated the stardom of somebody like a Gabby Windey, made Dylan Nicholas Harrison Efron into a star proper. So I would be shocked if The Traitors did not win again. I think the only outside possibility could be Drag Race, just because before The Traitors came along, Drag Race was the one that was really had this momentous streak of win after win after win, much like the Amazing Race did in its initial incarnation. But I think that The Traitors has cemented itself this season as not just like a flash in the pan, one-time popular reality show. It truly is one of the most talked about shows today, let alone in reality TV. And so, everybody get your hoods up, because I think we're in for plenty more seasons in the turret, and subsequently, I think plenty more Emmy nominations. Let's get outside of competition reality, but talk about a very different type of reality program. So in recent years, they've sort of taken the non-competition shows, which are these shows that do not have, someone getting eliminated at every episode and a winner at the end. And they have separated it into 2 categories. We have outstanding structured reality program and outstanding unstructured reality program. I'm going to try to explain the difference here. The pure irony is that trying to determine what is structured versus unstructured doesn't have a lot of structure to it. Go figure. But the Emmy site defines a structured reality program as a show that, quote, contains consistent story elements that mostly adhere to a recurring structured template. Whereas the unstructured reality program, quote, contains story elements driven by the actions of characters and lacking a consistent structured template. So it seems like a structured reality program is a show that typically has a format that it follows. One key example, a persistent nominee in this category, is a show like Shark Tank, where the products are going to be different, the sharks are going to be different, but the general format of each episode, right? There are going to be specific segments dedicated to someone coming in, hawking their product, getting a shark to bite, perhaps quite literally, and then going on to great success. An unstructured reality program is something like another darling, Love on the Spectrum, where we are instead following the lives of these people. It's closer to a docu-series. There really isn't a specific beginning, middle, and end to each episode. And so that is sort of where we divide things. Again, it's a little nebulous, as we're about to get into, but these are the nominees for Outstanding Structured Reality Program. We have Antiques Roadshow. Yes, that show is still on. Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Absolute donkey sauce type of show. Love is Blind, of course, one of Netflix's first big reality hits. Queer Eye, which, again, I wouldn't necessarily call structured, but I guess it is because each episode focuses around a different person. And the aforementioned Shark Tank. Shark Tank and Queer Eye have kind of been batting this award back and forth the past previous years. They've been very verse in that regard. These are the same 5 nominated shows as last year, so we're not getting a lot of new blood in here, certainly not when the sharks are swimming around. I am going to go with Shark Tank. So Queer Eye recently announced that it is going to be releasing its final season. This upcoming one, I believe it's season 10 overall. I think, especially given the way that Emmys typically award these final seasons, that we're going to probably get a lot of recognition and perhaps a win there. I don't know if it'll be carrying over to this particular one. So I think the voters are going to keep doing what they're doing. I think also the departure of Mark Cuban might hold a lot of weight too. We'll talk about that with another category. And so, yeah, I think that Shark Tank is going to go back to back on this one. Moving over to Outstanding Unstructured Reality Program, we have a new one on the list here, America's Sweethearts, Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders, Love on the Spectrum, RuPaul's Drag Race Untucked, which is interesting that these are two separate shows, despite them claiming that you're only getting half the story by watching the show proper. They have separated the two halves, where again, Drag Race has seen a lot of success in reality competition program. Drag Race Untucked, which comes right after it, is in unstructured reality program. We have a Welcome to Wrexham, which is the Ryan Reynolds and Rob Mack piece about acquiring a soccer team. And another new kid on the block, the new hotness, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, the Hulu series that took the internet by storm last year, depicting all of the trials and tribulations of everyone behind Mom Talk. They just put out a second season. They're putting out a third season later on as well. They've really zoomed to the front of the zeitgeist. And again, this is what I was speaking about before with The Traitors, where this is another example of one of these new shows that gained enough word of mouth and popularity where the Academy might look at them and say, yes, this younger sibling that did something new and fresh, we're going to sort of bring you into the nomination circle, perhaps over the older sibling that's always been there, but has done a couple of big achievements as of late. So Welcome to Wrexham won the last 2 years, but I really think that, and we'll get into this with a lot of these awards, I think this is Love on the Spectrums to lose. And let me just say, here on Rob Has a Podcast, we are largely focused on the competition reality side of things. That is our bread and butter. But if you're looking for like a sweet type of dessert on the sideline of a lot of these main courses that we talk about, I really, really recommend Love on the Spectrum. It is this series that depicts the lives, specifically the romantic aspects of a cast that's entirely on the autistic spectrum. I think especially nowadays when there is unfortunately, tragically, a lot of discourse about autism and representation. We just talked about it with Eva in this most recent season. It absolutely warms the heart to see a type of show like this that celebrates autistic individuals for who they are and showcases some of the cutest relationships that I have ever seen on TV, let alone reality TV. If you don't ship Abby and David, there's something wrong with you. Let's be completely honest here. So I think that Love on the Spectrum, which just released, I think its second season, is going to earn, or its third season, I should say, is going to earn a lot of love, fittingly enough. And I think that's going to carry over to that particular category. I'm going to take a quick break here, but I'll be back in a flash where I'll rate off all the rest of these reality TV categories at the Primetime Emmy Awards.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit purina.com/purple to learn more.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian time.
Okay, so we just went through the big categories for the outstanding series as we cut a wide swath through, again, an ever-growing complex categorization of reality TV. But let's get into some other really important categories. Every reality show needs some sort of host. And so we turn to an award that was first brought up about like 15 years ago or so. Outstanding host for a reality or reality competition program. The nominees are RuPaul, the entire panel of Shark Tank, which is Mark Cuban, Lori Greiner, Kevin O'Leary, Barbara Corcoran, Robert Herjavec, Damon John, and Daniel Lubetsky. We have last year's winner, Alan Cumming, for The Traitors. We've got Kristen Kish from Top Chef and Jeff Probst. This is the exact same setup as last year. So those of you that are hoping that Ariana Madix was able to walk her way in as a bit of a bombshell into this category, unfortunately, she is left singled out in this particular aspect. So Alan Cumming won this last year. He was sort of the combo breaker from RuPaul, just winning back to back to back to back to back to back, which was, after Jeff Probst went back to back to back to back in the first 4 iterations of this award, then went away for a little bit, then came back in roaring fashion last year. Again, that even Joe stuff might give Jeff Probst the bump. But as I was just speaking about with The Traitors, there's no reason why I don't think Alan Cumming is going to get this. He remains to be one of the consistently best parts of the show. His theatricality is perfectly matched for the tone of The Traitors US specifically, which is a little bit more histrionic, a little bit more personality forward than perhaps some of the other shows that surround it. And so, yeah, I think we're going to watch Alan, take home his 2nd Emmy Award in a row for Outstanding Host, while I'm assuming wearing an absolutely incredible outfit. Let's turn to Outstanding Casting for a reality program. The nominees are The Amazing Race, Love on the Spectrum, Queer Eye, RuPaul's Drag Race, and Survivor. So this is a relatively new category, honestly, one of the newest ones, I believe, because it only started in 2017. So last year, we had The Golden Bachelor and Squid Game The Challenge as a part of this category, really showcasing that it was a sign of the times. Maybe they just wanted to really admire the effort of putting 456 people in the same room together. But those got switched out for Queer Eye and Survivor. And believe it or not, this is Survivor's first nomination for Outstanding Casting for a reality program. I think just because, up until a couple of years ago, it largely stayed out of these major reality categories because it was, again, just sort of regarded as this veteran show, this constant in a sea of variables that is reality TV as a genre. But it is back. So Jesse Tannenbaum is now doubly nominated here for both Survivor and The Amazing Race. Queer Eye also coming in as well. Love on the Spectrum won last year. And again, given the fact that that has a very different approach to things, being that it is this unstructured series that is all about sort of bringing people back time after time and following their journey. Given the consistency in the casting, I have to imagine the consistency in victory will retain as well. And this show will take home its 2nd Emmy in a row in this category. I think the big question out of this particular category, though, is where is The Traitors? The Traitors has been heralded, especially the US version, for really becoming, as I call it, this sort of like reality TV Super Smash Brothers, where you take all these different all-stars from all these different types of shows, ranging back from the beginning of the 2000s to recent standouts, and throwing them together in a Scottish castle and having them play this, accelerated version of Mafia. It has earned so many accolades for its casting. I mentioned before about how it has become like a huge show to lift people's profiles, either bringing them back into the spotlight or introducing them to new audiences. And it did win an Emmy for casting in 2023. However, it was not nominated the last 2 years. And the big question is why? Now, I would not profess myself an expert on any of these types of things, so please, in the comments, inform me if I am misaligned in my thinking here. But I believe the reasoning is that Traitors casting now does not really have a formal audition process, right? Season 1 had some reality TV veterans, but they also cast newbies. And so I do think that, if the casting process does not involve auditions and, casting calls and everything like that, it might disqualify the show from being nominated in this category. AKA, if you're not casting newbies, then you may not be able to be nominated for outstanding casting for a reality program. That's my best piece of logic for it. Again, feel free to let me know if there's something I'm missing out on. That's really the only explanation I can see as to why this isn't being nominated. The Traitors is nominated in basically every other reality TV category where it applies. So it makes no sense on paper that casting would be the one it's left out of, especially, again, since it had won 2 years ago. So this is where, unfortunately, its strategy of pursuing this sort of like celebrity-only all-star casting might have bit them in the foot. Let's go to some of our categories behind the camera. First off, starting with the person quite literally doing so, outstanding directing for a reality program. So we have The Amazing Race, and The Amazing Race episode that was specifically nominated was one from season 37. It Smells Like the Desert, which is the Dubai leg. This is where we have the big foot race between Pops and Jeff and Nick and Mike. Personally, I would have gone with the next episode since that was a more exciting episode. I think at the time we hailed it as like one of the best Amazing Race episodes in recent memory, with Jack and Carson's massive comeback and the double U-turn. But maybe if you're looking at it more from a directorial perspective of like, getting cool shots, obviously Dubai has an incredible landscape to show off. Love on the Spectrum, we have the finale. Drag Race, we have the season 17 premiere, which, at the time I think was heralded as one of the best premieres in recent memory. So I don't think it's just like we're just going with the first episode of the season as we might with The Traitors, which was the season 3 premiere. And I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just good to kind of get it into the clubhouse, no matter what the episode nominated is. I don't think the first episode was the best indication of the heights that The Traitors season 3 hit. You really want to get into that sweet spot when you had Bob versus Boston Rob and Carolyn versus Danielle versus Boston Rob. I feel like if you're just going with the premiere, there were so many epic things, especially from a directorial perspective, that are sort of left on the table there. And then finally with Top Chef, I believe this was the episode. This is where Massimo was eliminated from this most recent season. It was the one where they really celebrated a lot of Indigenous Canada. They had an entire challenge where they foraged for stuff and made a dish out of that. So obviously an incredibly heartwarming and very important episode of the show. Love on the Spectrum won last year. We have some new contenders in Amazing Race and Top Chef. This year, stepping in for Squid Game The Challenge and Welcome to Wrexham. I think it's probably between Love on the Spectrum and maybe Drag Race, because again, that premiere was so big, especially with the whole Squid Game opening. Maybe The Traitors, this is where a bit of like the Traitors tide would raise the boat here, that even if the episode nominated is not the strongest one, it could get the win here just being connected to the brand. So this is probably the category I'm torn the most between, because this is not about a series perspective. This is maybe specifically focusing on the episode proper, and that's where it becomes a bit more nebulous. And then we have outstanding cinematography for a reality program, which is The Amazing Race, Life Below Zero, Love on the Spectrum, Survivor, and The Traitors. The cinematography, listen, there's some beautiful camera work that can be done on The Traitors. It's always tough to capture these people sniping at each other at the round table. And shows like The Amazing Race and Survivor are able to get these beautiful establishing shots of nature and the wide world that is around us. I think this is going to go to the show that won last year and the one that kind of sticks out here as the first time we're talking about the show this time around, Life Below Zero. Again, it doesn't really get a lot of love in a lot of the other categories, but here is where it really shines. I mean, this is showcasing, life of people who live off the grid in remote Alaska. And so it really is all about that camera work and what it is able to showcase, especially so differently from a lot of the other shows that are even nominated in its category. So Life Below Zero won one award above zero last year, and I believe it will rise another degree this year. Outstanding picture editing for a structured reality or competition program. We have Amazing Race, Queer Eye, Drag Race, Traitors, and The Voice. Traitors and Drag Race, it should be noted, specifically nominated for their premieres, while all the other shows are nominated just as their general series body of work. Traitors ended up replacing Top Chef, which was nominated last year, and The Voice won last year. Given the fact that Traitors shows up here, I could imagine this is a category where they actually take it. Editing is something that is kind of the unsung hero. These stories need to be told. And, it's the fruitless labors of these editors who spend countless hours editing down countless hours into a digestible product that truly is, the main conduit to which we enjoy these shows in the first place. And so I think this might be where they celebrate Traitors, particularly in its editing and storytelling, and give it the award here over The Voice and some of the other shows that are nominated. Outstanding picture editing for an unstructured reality program. We have Deadliest Catch, Life Below Zero, Love on the Spectrum, Drag Race Untucked, and Welcome to Wrexham. Welcome to Wrexham has won the past 2 years of this, and Life Below Zero has replaced Below Deck Down Under, which went down under with no nominations this past year. And so there's a good chance that Welcome to Wrexham will repeat and do the hat trick by winning for a third year in a row. You can't help that sports editing style. But I don't know. Again, if we're using this editing award as just a general harbinger for a celebration of the show, I might give it to Love on the Spectrum. So I could see them maybe swoop in and steal the proverbial ball away from Welcome to Wrexham here. Final big category, all shout out. Outstanding sound mixing for a reality program. This is where we bring in a lot of our singing shows, though we still do have nominations for The Amazing Race, Deadliest Catch, and Welcome to Wrexham. We do have the finales of American Idol and The Voice. Welcome to Wrexham won these past 2 years, and with Love on the Spectrum left out of this particular category, I do think this is one where they will be able to carry it to the goal again and score. And then just a couple of little loose ends. So outstanding production design for a variety or reality series. Sometimes they really like to commingle, your plastic and your paper in terms of these genres. Here's one case where they're throwing together like talk shows and variety shows and award shows in with reality shows. But for what it's worth, Drag Race did get a nomination for production design. They love the new look of the main stage, I guess. And speaking of drag, shout out to Dragula, the Boulet Brothers little show that got nominated for not only outstanding hairstyling for a variety, nonfiction, or reality program, but also outstanding makeup for a variety, nonfiction, or reality program. It would be absolutely incredible to watch Dragula be an Emmy Award-winning show. If you are, on your way out into Drag Race withdrawal from the All-Stars 10 finale coming up this week, check out Dragula on Shudder. It is a very fun time. Very different from the Drag Race you are used to, but similar all the same. And those are the Primetime Emmy Award nominations in 2025 for reality TV. I'm always so excited about this. Again, I will say that much like scripted television proper, this is in no way necessarily representative of the entirety of unscripted TV, which, especially in its time that it has grown and changed in 25 plus years, has incorporated so many different types of shows on so many different networks. And yes, there are these shows that are left off time and time again. And there are some shows that are celebrated time and time again that maybe some people feel should not be. But regardless, this is supposed to be a celebration of some of the best that TV has to offer. And so I'm incredibly excited to see on September 14th who is going to take home these awards, whether it be some of these shows that have won time and time again, whether it is some of these new kids on the block. Only time will tell. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think about these Emmy nominations? Are there some shows that are snubbed that you desperately want to see at least nominated for an Emmy? Do you disagree with some of the wins that I think might be coming some of these shows' ways in September? Be sure to reach out to us in the comments here on YouTube, on social media, anywhere you can possibly find me and The Reality Flash. That includes therealityflash.com, where you make sure to subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any updates that we have going on here in the wild world of reality TV, where we're talking about the general scope of things. We're talking about specific shows as well. Truly, we are trying to scan as much of reality TV as possible, be it unstructured, structure. There really is no structure for us when it comes to this podcast. And of course, no spam, no solicitations, just tips at therealityflash.com. If you have any suggestions as to any piece of news from reality TV that you want me to cover. That's going to do it for this episode of The Reality Flash. I'll be back in your eyes and your ears with more reality TV news as it breaks. But until next time, everybody, you've just been flashed.